Hello, everybody. This is welcome to Recovery Live, which is the great UK takeover today. My name is Dee Cunniff, and I am a recovered alcoholic, and I've recovered from other illnesses with which I was powerless. And we will be discussing the difference between something you're powerless over and something you're not powerless over. We're looking at a main subject. Our theme for today is going to be on the difference between a heavy drinker or drug user or addict who can stop and the real alcoholic, the real addict, people who are powerless. And we're going to have some discussion about that because there is some misunderstanding was identified at one of the other Recovery Live events. So anyway, so this is from the UK, from Manchester. I'm from Manchester. We've got some very, very exciting discussions to come to happen. So we have a guest who is from the UK but is actually live from Dubai, and we also have somebody from down in the south of England, and we have someone from Wales. So if you're from the USA or you're from any other countries, you know, that's the people that are going to be on with you live today. But we'd love to hear your comments. Please get involved with comments, ask questions. Disagree with us, you know, that's absolutely fine. This is an open conversation between some friends and engaging with you as friends as well in the community. So I'd just like to say, Kasara's going to remind us that there's going to be a t-shirt giveaway. Da-da, da-da. And what you need to do is to comment hashtag recovered for the t-shirt giveaway, and there's all sorts of amazing t-shirts. I am recovered t-shirts. There are came to believe, there are the 4 absolutes: absolute honesty, absolute unselfishness, absolute love. You know, we're going to be giving away all the t-shirts that have all these different emblems on them, so you can go into meetings and be able to say you're recovered, and that be able to tell them about the retreats when they say, where'd you get that t-shirt from? So thank you very much for that, Kasara. So what I'd like to do now is to introduce our very, very first UK, although she is actually, as I say, she's actually from Dubai at the moment, but the history goes back in what we did in the UK with recover, you know, how she recovered, and about the retreats that she attended, and we'll also do a bit of back and forth about some of the things that have gone over the years, because I think it's 15 years that I've been liaising with her. So Kasara, could you welcome in Vanessa Linney?
Hi, everybody. Pleased to meet you all, wherever you are.
So
Hi, Dee.
Hello, Vanessa. It's really good to see you all the way from Dubai.
It's very hot.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? But this is still, let me just make the point, if everybody in the comments could say where they're from, so that anyone that's joining is able to go, oh, look, this person's come from here and this person come from there, people from all over here. But our history goes back, because it is the big UK takeover, goes back to the UK. And it's a bit of a joke, Vanessa, that what actually happened was Tom, who usually does this, and he's flying through in the air somewhere. I don't know where he is. He's flying somewhere. He suddenly told me, he said, oh, right, Dee, you'll do that, won't you, on the 29th of April? I'm like, oh, okay, then. Right, all right, I'll do that then. And so I didn't really know. And at that point, he said, oh, this is going to be the big UK takeover. So it wasn't our claim. It was what Tom claimed. But we can always live up to what is suggested. So we're going to live up to that. And we're going to have a UK takeover today. So if there's anybody, I know that some of the, so we've got Sharon's on from Wales as well. And in the background, we're going to have Melissa joining us from Wales and Catherine from the UK as well, right down in the south of England. So Vanessa, tell me about what you remember about first meeting me.
Well, it was reluctantly. I was forced to know. I was broken, and I'd been in the fellowship for 3 years, relapsing consistently, losing everything, including my mind. And I had a lady that told me to go and fight. She said that I needed to go through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I did. I thought I'd done the steps by going to meetings and reading them on the sheets they used to have on the walls over there. I was like, yeah, I've done them. Yes, don't really get step 3, but anyway, I've done 1, 2, 6, 8, 12. So yes, I've done them. And sure enough, I just kept drinking. And so I was told to go and find a lady with pink stripes in her hair at a meeting and ask her to take me through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, the program through the big books of the Alcoholics Anonymous. And to be honest, I knew I didn't have any other choice because I tried everything myself over the last 3 years. And so I went to that meeting. I spotted, it happened to be Dee, the lady with the pink hair. Didn't really know what I was asking her, but I'd got this sort of script off this lady that told me just go and say that. And I did that after the meeting. And I was told, I'm going away for 2 weeks to a festival, which immediately I was like, a festival? What do you mean you're going to a festival? And then I got very suspicious. And I'm like, right, okay. I said, what do you mean? Like a proper festival with music and dancing? And she said, yes. And I said, what? And you're not drinking? She went, no. And I said, what? And you enjoy yourself? Do you dance and everything like this? She's like, yes. And immediately I thought, that's what I want to do, because I honestly thought I would never do that again. And, you know, I think it's really important to let people know that you can have fun and you can do those things if you're recovered. In my eyes, in my experience, if you're working all parts of the program, and not drink again. So she told me, you get in contact with me in 2 weeks' time. And something came over me actually as well outside that meeting. And I know who it was now. And it just clicked. It went, just do what you're told. Shut your mouth, do what you're told, and just do everything that this woman tells you to do and see if that works. And that's exactly what I did. And it worked. I mean, when I met Dee, I think I'd just lost my home and I was living on my friend's camp bed, I think, in her spare room. And I'd also lost no, that was later on, actually. So that's how I met Dee. I'd always gone to meetings. I thought I understood what the program was. Didn't know why I needed a sponsor, but you know, that then took me on the journey of continuing to go into the depths of hell, and that also led me to more drugs. It led me to gambling, which I'd never done before, and you know, gambling on the bingo sites whilst isolating, you know, doing drugs, drinking on my own in my house, not paying my rent. A sad life. And then in the end, you know, standing on the edge of train stations thinking, shall I? You know, I scared myself, and, you know, I had to walk. When I went to work, I had to walk away from the edge of the station because I just didn't know whether I couldn't trust my mind was going.
It'd be really good, you know, to move on to what your experience was of the first time you went to a Came to Believe retreat, because we met earlier and you knew you needed to work the program and we started to engage with that. But just the experience of going to the retreat and why you went and those sort of things. What happened?
Yeah. Well, you know, you make a lot of friends in the program, a lot of lifelong friends, and you know, people were saying, "Oh, I've been to this retreat, I've been to that retreat," and I was, I guess, a bit lazy and a bit wary. I thought it was sort of just, I don't know what, like a kind of a religious thing, or I don't know. And I'm spiritual. I do believe in Jesus, and I describe myself as a mix of everything, really. But I do believe in God, and I do believe in Jesus. Never had a problem with the God thing. And the Came to Believe, Dee started up, and she started telling me about it. And eventually, I thought, I'm going to give it a go. So drove there. I remember the first time. I was on my way driving there, and something came into my head, which I now know is my disease attacking me, which was suddenly said, they're going to brainwash you, you're going to come out a different person. And I was battling all the way in the car with this thing in my head, thinking, what am I doing? Why am I going to a monastery and staying there at the weekend? And then I sort of clicked and thought, but it's Dee. You know, she wouldn't brainwash me. You know, she's never done that. Never. She's just not like that. Anyway, so I got there, and Dee explained to me what had just happened. So I didn't turn back the car. I did go there, and I learned a lot. I went there to learn. It was quite. As soon as I walked into the place, there was a calm feeling, but also fun as well. And there was a lot of happy people there, a lot of sense of humours there, which I loved. And you know, there was it took you through the program as it was originally done in, I think it was 3 days or 4 days, which at first, again, I was dubious, because I thought, oh, you can't do it in that amount of time. But what it did, what I saw it do for people, and again, what it did for me, not whilst I was there the first time. The first time there were a couple of bits of it, or one part of it, that made me cringe a bit, with the band, if you remember, Dee, playing.
I do remember that. I remember you going, like, you said something to me like, oh, I don't feel very comfortable here. And
happy clappy. And,
yeah. And what did you say? What did you say to me?
No, you said to me, well, don't go in there then. I was like, oh yeah, I didn't have to stay in there. But again, you know, that tells me, I think it was about 2 years maybe into my having worked the program and being sober, that I was still probably people pleasing a bit, because I didn't want to, I just thought I'll sit here and cringe. But on the way home, I drove, it was all over. And on the way home, I drove home, and the George Michael song came on the radio, and everything that had been sort of, I felt like when I was there was something trying to block me. And I know now it doesn't want me to get any weller than I am, and it doesn't want me to pass any message on, because it wants, I believe, any of us that have got this disease or signs of this disease to go that way as opposed to that way. And the more and more people that get well, the less chance it's got. And that's just what I believe. And
so tell me about what that song said to you. What did the song actually say to you? Because I've heard this before, Vanessa, where people have come to the retreats, and sometimes people have a very profound experience at a particular step. Mine was on step 7. But some people will get something happen on the way home, or they will get something happen, you know, as they eat that night, or even a week later, or whatever. So you heard in a song, and if I remember, you said that Jesus, you got in touch with me and said, I think Jesus just spoke to me. So,
yeah, he was speaking to me in the voice of George Michael, and I really don't know how I know that. But when I was, I've been a George Michael fan since I was like 11, so I've listened to his songs many times. But it was almost, and I can't remember the exact song. I was trying to think of it. I think it was Jesus to a Child. It might not have been though. But everything I was worried about, it reassured me in that song. And I don't know what came into my mind thinking it was just a weird experience, but it was a lovely experience. And it was an experience of hope, and another click in my head thinking, everything's going to be all right. And this was me thinking I was all right. I thought I wasn't.
Isn't that good message for people that maybe, because we have people desperate come to retreats, but we also have people that have, and I think that one or two other people that I think one of the people that's going to join us today, one of them was somebody who had already, like you, done some work. We've done some big book work beforehand, but it was to do with the connection and relationship with God. And then others, which I think is the other person who's going to join us, had the experience where they were drinking and drugging, and that's what stopped them. So there's all that. I just wanted to make some shout outs. I'm going to do some shout outs now. I'm shouting out to Sharon Wilcock, and Doc Roth. Hey, Doc from Las Vegas, who's been on our meeting on a Tuesday. Kerry, Indiana, come on, Kerry. Brad from Utah. Terry,
Wow.
oh, hiya, you know Terry. You think you met Terry Wade going back there. So, yeah, I'm sure
Terry
you're
Wilson.
Yeah, Terry Wade, who was in London. I think you probably knew him before. So Tim, hiya Tim. He's loving the accent. He's loving it. So we're going to have more of that, but we're going to have a bit of an Irish accent, and we're going to have a bit of a Welsh accent coming on. So we really are taking over everything. So Illinois, Chuck, hiya Chuck, and Sue Foreman, who was one of the people, Vanessa. So Sue Foreman's on there, Steve Foreman's wife, and they sat with Clarence Snyder, who was sponsored by Dr. Bob Smith. And they sat with him on when he died, and he put his hand onto Sue Foreman and to Steve Foreman and said, I want you to take the retreats forward. And all this comes from there. And we've got Sue on there saying, onward, Dee and Vanessa. So I'm well up for that. Then we have from Ghana, we've got is it Joseph Obegbotang, and we have Therese, who is one of our regulars on our Came to Believe meeting on a Tuesday, who is in hospital because she's going to have a baby, but she's like joined us from there. All right, so Anna, hello family. Yep. So Andrew, okay, so Andrew,
I can see now,
yeah. So the retreat in January, you were there. Hello, Andrew. Good to see you. Anna, again, lots of messages there. Okay, so I just wanted to give the shout out to all our people. And if there's anyone there who hasn't just put hello, I'm here, or whatever, we can engage. So our subject for today, and I will come back to some other things because there's loads of things we could talk about, all the experiences we had, spiritual experiences. I mean, we won't go to it yet, but that you used to ring me and say, when I'm going to work, when I look at the driver's seat, Jesus is sat in the car next to me. Now,
I loved it.
I know, and you loved it. What I thought was amazing was, because I'd had some sort of experiences like that, and not everyone does, but you seemed like the last person who would do that would happen.
I know. And I am the last person who would do that, but it came, and I wasn't drinking, so I knew I wasn't going mad or anything like that. If it had been maybe like 5 years before, then that would have been a different story, but it was such a nice thing. And he, it was you couldn't explain this to anyone other than us. All these people in this room, because they'd probably think, the normal people would think we're mad, although I actually think we're the normal people. But anyway, I just drive into work, and I'd always chat to Jesus on the way to work. That was my time when I could do my prayers and have a little chat. And I actually chat to him all day because he pulls me up on everything. And we have quite a laugh sometimes when I'm trying to do it my way. And he's like, no. And then he'll put something in front of me to make me see. And it's like, okay. But yeah, it was kind of weird, but nice weird, just sitting there. But it actually looked like my vision of what Jesus would look like, which if anyone's watched The Chosen, it's that kind of look.
Like Middle Eastern guy, which is what he was, you know, that was a basic working man who was itinerant as well.
Yeah, and I think he was really what he was trying to do on my way to work was calm me down, I think, and chill me out a little bit, because I was still, you know, I was in sales, so I was always a bit like, you know, fast. And I think every time I got in the car and it was like, morning. And you're right. I would never in a million years would have.
You were the last person I expected to get. You were the last person I expected to get a phone call from telling me that. There were other people that, you know, might have been in churches and stuff that I, you know, were already going to church or whatever. So you were the last person, but it was so beautiful and so encouraging. I'd like to move on now to, and we're going to bring our guests on as well, so that we can have a little bit of a discussion about the illness of alcoholism, drug addiction, or any addiction, which is where you have the, you know, so if it's something like, if it's alcohol, it's definitely in the doctor's opinion that you will have, you know, an allergy. If you're, you know, these people who are alcoholic, they have this allergy phenomenon, craving. And then, and that has also, although it's not in the doctor's opinion, there are other conditions and other drugs and other things that people will take where they say they will get a similar phenomena. It's obviously not exactly the same, that sort of acetone, the buildup of acetone in the body. But also, so I think that, you know, the other thing that it's worth mentioning here is that, you know, that you have the thinking that precedes the drink. So you have the mental state that precedes the drink. You have peculiar mental twist. You have a blank spot. You have obsession. And they can be quite different, but they're all parts of that mental state the big book talks about that precedes the drink. But what the subject of today is about, you know, what's the difference between that, somebody who's got the thinking that precedes the drink and the phenomena of craving, and a heavy drinker or a drug user. So I'll just read the bit out of the big book, and I just wonder whether you'd comment on it from your experience. It says about the heavy drinker or heavy user. Then we have, this is page 20 of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Then we have a certain type of hard drinker. He may have the habit badly enough to gradually impair him physically and mentally. It may cause him to die a few years before his time. If a sufficiently strong reason, ill health, falling in love, change of environment, or the warning of a doctor becomes operative, this man can also stop or moderate, and basically that's for good. Although he may find it difficult and troublesome, because if you're like physically addicted to something, you might need a detox. So that sort of also suggests that people who are in, you know, just because you're in a rehab, they might have been physically addicted to something, but may not have this mental state that precedes the drink or the phenomenon of craving. They might not have that. And it said they might need medical attention. So there's a difference. And then you've got the real alcoholic who's completely powerless. So I wonder if you've got anything that you'd like to share about that, Vanessa, and then we invite our friends on in a second.
Yeah, I mean, well, it was always a bit confusing in the beginning, and it took me a while to get my head around it. You know, even going sort of through the book, but I can talk about my experiences of what I saw when I was in meetings. And what people had explained to me. Hang on, which way shall I do this? I'll give the scenario, that sticks in my mind that helps me explain to someone else quite easily the difference. And it's actually my partner, who I met 12 years ago when I hadn't been drinking for 2 years. And he had a bit of a problem with me he didn't really understand the fellowship and why I still had to come. Yet he was interested. And all he used to say was, well, I used to drink all day, every day for years. And I would be in the off license at 9 o'clock in the morning, buying a big bottle of cider. And he said, and I said, but I can tell he hasn't got the disease of alcoholism and he doesn't really drink anymore.
How did you tell that? How could you tell that?
He hasn't got the defects, but just going back to what he said to me, which was what I was waiting for. I'm like, that's why. He described he was really drunk, went to the shop at, again, 9 o'clock in the morning, bought a bottle of cider that day and thought, what am I doing with my life? This is the last bottle of cider I'm going to have. And he stopped. Now, and what I said to him is, I completely get it. I used to go to the shop every single day and say, this is the last bottle of wine I'm buying and drinking, and meant it 150%. But I was there the next day or that evening and I didn't stop. Yet he stopped. And it still amazes me how people can do that. But it amazes me because I have the disease of alcoholism, and it's mental and it's physical. And
that's good. And I wanted to, because I'm going to just, one of the things I wanted to pick up was that you mentioned the defects, and I'm going to just sort of push back a bit on that, because everyone in the world's got defects of character. So that's not what identifies the alcoholism. It is the allergy when you put it in your body, and the thinking that tells you what you just described about 100% meaning it, and yet later on going to the shop, which is exactly what you said. But I do know some people do think it's to do with that, the spiritual malady, all that sort of the defects, but everyone in the world's got those. It's just that they fuel our illness, So do you agree with that, Vanessa?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I've got many different ways of looking at it, and I can't always remember them all, but God, I've lost my train of thought.
Shall we invite the other guys on? Let's invite the other guys on. So can we bring on Melissa and Catherine?
And what I was going to say actually before was just in the meetings, once I got well, I could then kind of tell the heavy drinkers from the people that were working the program. And it was quite simple. The meetings that I went to with people that said that they'd come, they'd stopped drinking, they hadn't worked a program, hadn't got a sponsor, but all of their consequences of drinking had stopped. They just seemed unhappy still. And the people that had gone through the program had a light in their eyes, and they were doing things and they were living life and they were happy. And eventually I moved towards the others.
So having said that, so I've seen that. So people coming to retreats who have not worked the steps through as the founders did, and they've not done that, and then they are in meetings, but they're actually very, very, very unhappy. And we do get people that come along like that. But there's still that identification, between the people that are, that could stop. They can sit in meetings and not work the steps. Are they heavy drinkers? We don't know. We can't turn around and tell people that they're heavy drinkers.
All I know is that if that is what a heavy drinker is, i.e. I drink 2 bottles of wine a day, but I come to meetings and it stops me from drinking, that's all I need to do. Brilliant. But I'm kind of glad I'm not a heavy drinker and I have the disease of alcoholism, because if I had been just a heavy drinker and was able to stop by just going to meetings and not work a program and everything else, and not experience the retreats or anything like that, then there's so much I wouldn't know. I wouldn't be able to do that I've done. And I would, how can I put it? I just saw people in meetings moaning about their job, moaning about their cats, moaning about and life didn't seem great. And I didn't want that. It was it's depressing. And I was already, I'd been in, as most of us have, in quite a depressive state by the time we flew through the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous.
So let's answer, Terry. So Terry Wade has asked, what's the difference between an alcoholic and a dependent drinker? And I'm about to introduce Catherine and Melissa. We just read out from page 21. It says, given a sufficient reason, the heavy drinker or the dependent drinker can stop or moderate. It's a physical thing. They can be separated from alcohol and go back and drink a pint every now and again because they've been separated from the dependence. That it says here that you can be effective physically and mentally. You get the shakes, you can get the shakes, you can get the jitters because you're being separated from alcohol. But if you haven't got the thinking that precedes the drink and you haven't got the phenomenon of craving, you're not a real alcoholic. You may need to go and do psychotherapy. I wanted to bring in, so Catherine she has the most beautiful Irish accent, but she's from the south of England, and there is from Wales. So Catherine, could you give me some of feedback on your experience of this discussion?
So I've been both a heroin addict and an alcoholic, and
could I just second everybody? Maybe when you're not speaking, be on mute because there's some feedback going on. Go on, Catherine.
Yeah, I was an intravenous heroin user and benzos for many, many years, and this illness, I went into rehab and spent like 2 years in there, and basically this illness told me I could drink. I'd be able to control drink. And I drank for years and thought it was great. And, I did it to escape. And eventually when I did go into the program and I realized I understood the illness, I wasn't drinking to escape anymore. I was drinking to overcome a craving beyond my mental control. That's the bottom line, I sincerely believe I'm allergic to alcohol. I am different than my partner. He can pick up a drink tonight. He might have one drink, or he might have 4 or 5 drinks. He'll stop when he feels like it, and he certainly won't pick one up tomorrow morning. I could not do that. When I put a drink in me, that's it. It sets off that phenomenal. And that's why think about the word phenomenal. It's massive. It's bigger than me. It sets off that craving. That's it, and it doesn't matter the consequences. I've lost my son. He went into the care system. I've been to prison. I had all family members, my own mother, Lord rest her, begging me to stop. And in my heart, I really, really wanted to. And I tried. And like Vanessa said, there was days where I'd say, that is it. I'm not drinking. But because of that, I kind of never even gave myself a chance. I drank every day, solidly, and the power of this disease is it's certainly beyond my control, and it says we're beyond human aid, and that for me that very much was the case. I adore my son. I didn't want my son to go into care, but I picked drugs and alcohol over my child, the bottom line, because I was so ill. I felt I didn't have a choice. People say you have a choice, you're a bad mom, and to some degree, some of them things when you're saying you're a bad mom, to some degree I wasn't a good mother. No way, However, I was suffering from this disease, and it brings you to the depths of despair. It really does. And I've seen heavy drinkers, and one of my friends was a really heavy drinker. And I, at that time, I would have looked at him and thought he's a bit of an alkie. Nothing about me, you know. I'm not in that category. My denial ran deep, and but he'd go on binges with me, you know, like proper Thursday to Sunday, but he'd stop. He'd stop when he had enough, or his family would be on his case that he has to get it together, and he would be able to stop, whereas I couldn't. I just couldn't. I could not put that drink down. It's a wicked disease. It really is. But the life you get when you do, like you said, Vanessa, I wouldn't be the person I am today, or even half the person I am today, if I did not do them steps and have 10, 11, and 12 in my life to look at me, to dig deep into me and see who I am and deal with me. And that's something I never did on drugs or alcohol. That's why I took them. I didn't want to deal with me, you know.
And, you know, I'm thinking, you know, that you've given a great description here of, you know, that difference between someone who can stop or moderate. And it talks on page 21 of the big book at the top about, you know, falling in love, ill health, change of environment. My father-in-law, he was a big drinker with me, like with you, Catherine, the same thing. He was a big drinker. We used to go out, and then he got told he would die because he was affecting his liver. And then he just stopped and started having a whiskey, you know, at night, because he, you know, on the weekend it was every now and again a whiskey. And I was devastated because he was my big drinking partner. Now, the other question that Terry asked was about this dependent drinker bit. And I'm looking here on, it's just the bottom of that first paragraph on page 21. And it says, you know, that the man can stop or moderate, although he may find it difficult and troublesome and may need medical attention. So they might need a detox, you know. And I think that's where the misunderstanding comes in, like drug services, is that you can, you know, they don't identify that difference between somebody that needs a detox because they've got a problem in their life and they have some psychosocial support, but they're not powerless like we are. So Melissa, hello, Melissa. Please do come in. And, you know, what's your take on this difference between a heavy drinker and you know, a real alcoholic, and any experience you have?
So I was thinking about this a little last night. Like, I haven't been around that long, you know, just a little over 2 years. I have a family member. She's the same age as me, and we were both sort of pregnant around about the same time. She couldn't have any children for a long time, and she had a chronic pain condition. And she could drink me under the table. You know, I knew I was very different, you know, I knew I had a problem, but I was sort of trying to hide it from the outside world. And we would drink together in her house, you know, she would have 3, 4 bottles of wine, I'd have 2, you know, I probably would have had 2 before I'd gone there. And it was quite obvious to me that she had a problem, you know, but I didn't really sort of fit the pieces together at that sort of time. And she must have been trying for baby for about 8 years, and she had IVF, and eventually it worked, and she was able to stop. I got pregnant with Toby, and I couldn't stop. And I remember going to the midwife, and she was in the waiting room, and the first thing she said to me was, "How are you coping without your vino?" You know, the first thing she said to me. And I felt so, I don't know, I just wanted to crawl into the floor, you know, because I said, oh yeah, fine, you know, I've had all this sickness and everything, which was, yeah, I did have sickness, but I was still drinking. You know, she stopped, you know, because she really wanted to protect her children, and she's not an alcoholic, you know, she's just a hard, heavy, dependent drinker, or she was, and she was able to stop. I wasn't. You know, and it's a subtle difference, you know, it really is.
I think that, you know, I mean, I just have this through. So there is a little bit of feedback. So I will, please do put yourself on mute if you're not speaking. I don't know where it's coming from, but there is a little bit of feedback coming when you're not. So sorry about that. But I really do think that there is, you know, I've helped do work with drug and alcohol services to do with people with Hep C. And I also see you know, everyone's all lumped in together with the people that the problem drinker, along with the real alcoholic, and giving the same advice of things like controlled drinking, which some could do because they can stop or moderate, and others can't do. I'm really up for the guys in the, you know, our people who are watching this. Please make some examples of this. Tell us about where you've seen this. So I would just like to, so Doc Roth has shared with us that, you know, obviously it's a power that's going to heal us, which is will solve the problem. And absolutely, that's right. I think that perhaps what we're thinking about here as well is, what about those people who don't have that, you know, that they have no defense, you know, against the first drink, you know, and then there's those that do have the defense, they can stop or moderate. And oh, hello, Nikki, my friend Nikki, she's joining us. So she's learned. So Nikki says, I learned I didn't have a drink problem. I have a think problem. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's really good. So tell us, Catherine, about your experience when you went to a Came to Believe retreat. You're on mute at the moment because I told you to all to be on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, so I was brought up a Catholic, and I blamed God a lot of like when my mum died, I blamed him, and I kind of denounced him, and you know, I was on my knees every night at 6 o'clock around the chair doing the rosary, and dragged to my dad's grave every Saturday, hail, rain or shine, and Christmas morning had to go to all the graves before you were allowed to open your presents, and so and it was all like breathing and I'm sinning. So, you know, it was God and me didn't really, I kind of lost my faith, and I didn't really believe in him anymore because I felt like he punished me and he didn't really help me. And when I went to a retreat, I wanted to go. I just heard about it and I was desperate. I was a few months sober and I thought I'll try anything if it helps me. And I went with some reluctance because I thought, oh, he's going to be all holy chosen, you know, what's it going to be like? And interestingly, I really enjoyed it actually. And I felt part of something, and I wasn't sure what. But what I came away with, rather than, because I didn't have this big experience there, although I met some lovely people, and again, I felt like I wasn't on my own, whereas all my life I felt like I was on my own, and I'm the only one who taught like this, and I was starting to understand the illness at that point as well. And it gave me a great sense of, I am not on my own, I'm not crazy, it's not just me. But what I did come away with was a sense that although I had left God all them years ago, and I think it was Dee who said it to me, it's like he never left me. And that was a revelation for me. It really, really was. And it was like I could trust him again, because this God wasn't a God that was being produced and put on me and being told this is a God of my understanding. This is a God that can be what I want him to be. And that made a massive difference. I never thought of God like that before. And it kind of really released something in me, you know, like certainly a trusting. And I let myself believe in this power, because you know, like I said, I was really desperate. And it just really slowly, I started to build up this picture of my God, this loving God, and someone who wanted the best for me, and someone who, even when I sinned or when things went wrong in my life, when I turned stuff over to him, he took care of it. He took, you know, he doesn't want me holding that stuff or carrying that stuff. And I believe that, you know, I believe that. And the retreat really changed my thinking and my life in that way.
It's fantastic. But I'd like to go over to Melissa, just a reminder that she is on mute, because Melissa's experience was not to go just to get, not just, I don't mean just, I mean to get a relationship with God, but you were desperate, weren't you? You arrived at the retreat still drinking the day before or the same day, was that right?
Yeah, I think I'd have alcohol in my system still when I went. Yeah.
And what actually happened?
I had a lot of arrogance in me. I thought it was just when I went, I was desperate. I was so ill, I was really, really unwell. My mum's in the chat and Pat Head, I can see, and she was there with her husband, and I was so ill, I was rattling, I was shaking, Gordon, who was running the retreat, said he was watching me trying to eat some peas and my hand was just doing this, and I thought, oh, this ain't gonna work, this ain't gonna work. But I'd try anything, and I did believe in Jesus, but I believed he was a psychopath, and I always bring this up because I tried to convince everybody outside that he was, and Pat and her husband prayed for me, and I had this like bright light spiritual experience on a Sunday, and I was completely transformed like that. And what I know is I haven't been the same since. It hasn't been easy. It really hasn't been easy at all. But I'm not the same person that I was then, definitely not. I wasn't expecting it.
And I think what a great story that is. So I will again have to get you on mute there, Melissa. There is some feedback. I don't know where on earth that's coming from, so I've got no control over it. So I'm just going to get going. I'm going to have to do that. But I think as a sort of wrap up, about this. And Angela has, she's just come on and said that she's like newer, and it's really so, I'm hopeful that that's helpful, that you've heard people that have come along because they wanted to, maybe their life wasn't going too well. But also at the retreats, we have people who come who've, have been drinking and they just cannot stop. And we've got a lot of experience of people going through that program and getting a defense against the first drink and not drinking again. And, and I know Melissa's story, and there we are. So, if you want to send in a message to Came to Believe, Angela, to have some contact with any of these recovered women here, we'd love to have contact with you. You could send a message with your details. You don't need to put it publicly, send it to Came to Believe, and we'll get in touch with you, because us ladies that have been desperate and couldn't stop drinking and were completely in bits like I was, we'd love to help you, so I'm going to just say that, thank you, girls, for sharing with us. Thank you for the discussion around heavy, hard drinking or addiction, and being powerless. And I hope that's going to help some people to understand that that's what the issue is. And then perhaps with the backup of what you've heard about the spiritual experiences which people had, which not only gave them a defense against the first drink, but gave them incredible change of outlook on power and relationship with a very loving being that cares about you. So, I'd just like to thank you. And I'm going to, so if Catherine and Melissa, you can be released, and I'll see you soon. Thank you for coming. Okay, so Vanessa, I think, so I'm just reminding everyone here about the fact that it's been coming up, that people, please do, you've got a few minutes left to put #recovered in.
Oh, t-shirts. I want the love one.
Yeah, well, you love. Yeah, well, the 4 absolutes, you'd like one of those. So thank you for coming, and I'm sure we can sort something out. We'll talk to you. But because unless you can put #recovered in, but there's a system that is would you like to come on, Kasara, and tell us what you're doing in the background there?
Yes, show your face.
Show your face.
Hello. Hi.
Kasara's sorting out everything in the back, and she's also doing the t-shirts. So what's happening out the back there, Kasara, for the t-shirts?
So for the t-shirts, when everyone comments #recovered, we have a system that grabs all of the hashtags, and it basically enters you into the giveaway. And then in a few minutes, I'll share my screen and I'll hit draw, and you'll see it like flicker through everyone's names, and then it'll pop up saying like whoever won, and I'll have confetti and everything.
Oh, there'll be confetti even.
Yes, there's some celebratory confetti,
which is fantastic. So okay, so how long until you're going to do the draw, Kasara? What time are you going to do it at?
I can do it now.
So okay, I'm just going to give one more shout out for people to do a hashtag. I think I'm a DJ, don't I? Doing shout outs. I think I'm some sort of, like DJ. I've become like so cool. I'm like this. I'm just like so.
I'll be your backup DJ then.
So #recovered, and I'm going to go 10 to 1, and then Kasara's going to do the draw. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Too late. She's doing the draw.
It's hard to have to bring it up. You put
Angela. Yes, Angela, come on.
Ready? Oh, we got 9. Ready?
Let's go.
Oh.
Doc Roth has won it.
Oh, Doc.
Well done, everybody, for engaging in that. Kasara, so I just wanted to tell people who Kasara is, if you're newer. Kasara works with us, and she's somebody who has worked in the area of drug and alcohol for many years, but is not doesn't identify as a powerless alcoholic or addict, but has worked in the field for a long time and loves. But in fact, you came to the retreat and went through 12 steps, didn't you? You came along and decided. I think that's a point I'd just like to make. Do you know what?
Yeah.
If somebody is like a heavy drinker, because if they're a heavy drinker and they're not working the steps, and they're those miserable people you talked about, Vanessa, come along and work the steps. I mean, stop being miserable and get some peace. So Kasara, that was was it the virtual retreat you did it on? Is that right?
Yep. I went through all the steps, down to the 4th step inventory, and we've talked about it before, but I think it's something beneficial for everyone, no matter no matter what, because I always thought like going through it, and just like my own like personal reflection and journey, is that I had a spiritual malady that wasn't linked to alcohol use or drug use, but it was still something that was inside me, and it was there, and it needed to be addressed, and I did need healing and help and community as well.
Yeah, and I see, so once you get well, you can spot people that have spiritual malady, and like you say, everyone in this world, they should do it in school or in college or something like that as part of the curriculum. I think the first thing I said to you, Dee, as we started going through the program, and I got really angry, and I was like, why didn't anybody tell me all this? Why didn't anyone explain all of this to me? Were my parents supposed to? Were they? Or was I? And then I spoke to my best friend and went, did your parents sit you down and teach you what emotions were and what fear was and explain to you how to behave? Or did you just know? And she went, no, I just knew. But I didn't. And I was taught that as going through the program, but I found it fascinating. And then the retreats were just a magical refresher of that, because I'd been through, but really the step 11 part of it, just the phases of moving on in life. And I think it gave me peace and courage to move on the retreats from where I was.
I'm like, from the outside, I've known, is it 15 years, Vanessa, that I've known you? Is it 15 years? That's right.
I'm losing count. I think it's 15. I was 37. I'm now 50. So 14 years in June.
It's 14.
I've known you 15 probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So, You know, and in that time, you said right at the beginning, for anyone who didn't hear that, just how broken Vanessa was when she came and spoke with me originally. And through the years, I'm now, you know, in regular contact, and lives in Dubai. You've got your own business. You've got your own
international business. I look and I think, how the hell did your head even learn all of that and then do it? I do laugh, but it's not in a million years, 15 years ago, I'd even thought about that. Just wasn't on the table. It's
and
amazing where it takes you, I have to say.
It is, and I do know that you do understand it's by the grace of God. I always get that from you.
Walking me through every single step there in the daytime, asking questions all day. I am. Give me a feeling, tell me, guide me. Yeah, I used to really hate. I was a bit of a rebel in the beginning, you know. I thought I knew it all and fought against it, but and I used to really cringe when people used to say, I've got a life beyond my wildest dreams, or I'm so glad to be an alcoholic. I used to be like, what are you talking about? It's hell. But I hadn't worked the program. I hadn't explored my step 11, which I explored mine mainly through the retreats. Yeah. And then he just guides you the rest of the way, really, as long as you keep doing the work.
I think that is a good end to what we had to say, that God guides us through, you know, once we've recovered and we get that defense, which Melissa talked about, you know, what happened with Melissa, you know, that we get what you just spoke about, Vanessa, and, you know, we're coming up to the end in our last 2 minutes. I think that is a great end. So we've gone through that process today about needing to understand the illness, understanding that, you know, that the heavy drinker is not the same as the alcoholic, and you're powerless. And we need this program, and we need a God that will give us the power so that we don't drink, a defense against the first drink. But then you've talked about having a joyful life and having peace and love and meeting this amazing God, you know.
Yeah, and I thought it was all like, you know, I didn't know why these people were so happy. It was quite annoying. I thought they were putting it on in the beginning. But
we'll probably need to.
What did we have to lose? And unfortunately for me, I had to spend 3 years trying it my way, because I know better and I don't need to do what everyone tells me, and I know what they're talking about, or I'm a bit suspicious. Just do it. And just cut all that rubbish out.
There we are. So we've got the grace of God, and then we've got just do it. So I'm going to finish it there at the end, and so I'm just going to say goodbye to Vanessa, and you can go back into your lovely restful back of stage, and I'd just like to say goodbye to everybody. And thank you for coming, and lovely to see. This was the great UK takeover, and I think we did a pretty good job of taking over. So Tom will be back next week, and he'll have to reclaim everything. But bye everybody, and lots of love and peace and joy and fun in your life. That's the end.